Be me. My name's Alice. I'm a vet tech, almost 30. I think I'm pretty normal. I have a good job that I'm good at. I like animals more than most people, which helps. I have my own apartment, pay my own bills, have a small circle of friends. By all accounts, I've got my life together. Except for one part, the part that feels like a constant low-grade toothache, dating. For the last, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, I've been on the apps, all of them. It feels like a second job, but one where you never get paid and your boss hates you. I've been on more mediocre coffee dates than I can count. I've perfected the art of the polite but firm, "I don't think we're a match" text. It's not that I'm asking for the moon. My friend agrees. We talk about this all the time. My standards aren't unreasonable. They're just standards, a baseline for a decent human being. I have a list. Not a physical one, but it's burned into my brain. He has to be tall. I'm not a giant, but I like to wear heels and not tower over a guy. So, 6'1", minimum. He needs a career, not just a job, something with a trajectory. Finance, marketing, tech, law, something that shows ambition. This ties into income, obviously. He doesn't need to be a millionaire, but he should be comfortable. 6 figures isn't a crazy ask in this economy. Education is important. A degree from a respectable university. It shows he can commit to something and see it through. And the big one, the absolute deal breaker, his mindset. He has to be a progressive, an ally. He needs to understand concepts like emotional labor and not get defensive when I talk about the patriarchy or toxic masculinity. So many guys fail at that last hurdle. You can feel it on the first date. You mention something you read about the wage gap, and their eyes just glaze over. Or worse, they try to devil's advocate you. Instant disqualification. My friend and I have a term for it, lacking the software. A guy can have all the right hardware, good looks, a decent job, but if the software is outdated, he's useless. We'd spend hours dissecting failed dates, laughing at the sheer cluelessness of some men. It was a bonding experience. We were in the trenches together. This past summer, maybe July, I went to a barbecue. It was hosted by a couple I know from my old neighborhood. Casual thing. Burgers and beers in the backyard. I wasn't there to meet anyone. I was in one of my I'm taking a break from men phases. The host was struggling with the propane grill. It wouldn't light. He was getting red-faced and frustrated, smacking the side of it. Then this guy I'd never seen before, Joshua, quietly steps in. He asks the host a couple of questions, calm as can be. He fiddles with the regulator, then goes to his truck and comes back with a small toolbox. No big show. No stand back. Let a real man handle this. Just quiet competence. In about 5 minutes, he has the thing taken apart, finds a blockage in the line, clears it, and puts it all back together. Fires up on the first click. He just nods to the host and goes to grab a bottle of water. Later, I ended up standing next to him by the drink cooler. We had to make small talk. He was polite, asked me what I did for a living. I told him I was a vet tech. His face lit up a little. He told me he had a rescued beagle. He asked smart questions about the dog's health. He was actually listening. I asked him what he did. "I'm an electrician," he said. "I run my own company. Just a small operation, me and a couple of other guys." And my brain just shut down. An electrician. It's not that it's a bad job. It's a useful job. But it wasn't on the list. It was a trade. Blue collar. He wasn't a slob or anything. He was clean. His clothes were fine. He just looked practical, sturdy, like a well-made piece of furniture. He was probably my height, maybe a little taller, but not over 6 feet. We talked for another minute, but I was already mentally checking out. I was calculating the polite amount of time before I could excuse myself. I called my friend on the way home, of course. I told her about the barbecue and about Joshua. "He was nice enough," I said, "and he fixed the grill. which was kind of impressive, I guess. "But?" she prompted. "He's an electrician." I said the word like it was a medical diagnosis. She made a sympathetic noise. "Oh, honey, no." "I know, right? Can you imagine trying to have a conversation about like anything important? He probably thinks feminism is about hating men." "You can't build a future with a guy like that," she said, her voice full of certainty. "You're an educated, professional woman. You need an equal." She was right. She was always right. It felt good to have that validation. Joshua was a nice guy for someone else, not for me. I forgot about him almost immediately. A week or two later, I was back on the apps. The break was over. More of the same. Guys holding fish. Guys in group photos where you can't tell who they are. Guys whose first message is, "Hey." It was soul-destroying. I was on the verge of deleting everything again. And then I matched with Julian. His profile was like a curated masterpiece. It was as if he'd read my list and created a character to match it. 6'3". The bio said so. Job: marketing strategist at a big, well-known firm. Photos: one in a perfectly tailored suit, looking thoughtfully out a high-rise window. One laughing with friends at what looked like a rooftop bar. One hiking, with a mountain vista behind him. Not a fish in sight. His bio was a single clever sentence about wanting a partner for intellectual sparring and late-night pasta. It was perfect. Too perfect. I was suspicious, but my hope outweighed my skepticism. His first message was a full sentence. It referenced my bio. I was already impressed. We messaged back and forth for a few days. The conversation was effortless. He was witty, intelligent, and asked about my day. He asked me out for drinks at a place I'd always wanted to try, but was too expensive to go to with friends. I spent 2 hours getting ready for that date. I was more nervous and excited than I'd been in years. The date was even better than the texts. Julian was incredibly charming in person. He looked like his pictures, only better. He held my chair for me. He made eye contact. He remembered little details from our text conversation. I decided to test him. I brought up a semi-controversial feminist author I'd been reading. He didn't miss a beat. He knew who she was. He said he'd read a few of her essays and thought she made some incredibly salient points about systemic inequality. He called himself a work in progress, an ally who was always learning and trying to do better. It was like every fantasy I'd ever had about a first date coming true. He insisted on paying. He walked me to my car. He didn't push for anything more than a hug. He texted me an hour later saying he had an amazing time. I practically floated home. I called my friend and gushed for a solid 30 minutes. "I found him," I kept saying. "I actually found a good one." The next few weeks were a blur. He was the perfect boyfriend. He planned thoughtful dates, a picnic in the park, a visit to an art gallery, a cooking class. He texted me good morning every day. He called me on his way home from work just to chat. He met my friend and completely charmed her. She pulled me aside later and told me, "Do not let this one go." I deleted all the dating apps from my phone. I felt so smug. I'd done it. I'd waded through the swamp and found my prince. My patience and my high standards had paid off. It was maybe the second month when the little things started. A good morning text would arrive at noon instead of 8 a.m. He'd take a few hours to respond to a message, when before he'd always replied within minutes. When I asked if he was okay, the excuse was always work. Just got slammed with a new project. My boss is a nightmare. Sorry for being off the grid. Had to put out a fire for a client. They were all plausible. He had an important job. I wanted to be the supportive, cool girlfriend, not the needy, clingy one. So I'd just say, "No problem. Hope it gets better soon." Then he canceled a date. We had dinner plans for a Friday night. He texted me an hour before. "Hey, so sorry. I have to bail. My team just got called into a last-minute brainstorming session. Going to be here all night. Rain check soon? I was disappointed, but I understood. I told him not to worry about it. I spent the night on my couch, watching a movie and feeling a little lonely. The next time we saw each other, he was extra affectionate, telling me how much he missed me and how stressed he was at work. He made me feel guilty for even being a little bit annoyed. The pattern continued. The gaps between his texts grew longer. Plans became more tentative, always conditional on his workload. He started using therapy speak against me. I tried to bring it up one night. I used all the I statements I'd read about online. I feel a little disconnected when I don't hear from you for a whole day, I said gently. His face hardened. I need you to respect my boundaries, he said, his voice calm and level. My work is very demanding, and I don't have the emotional bandwidth to be in constant contact. I need a partner who understands that and can give me space. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. He'd turned it around and made me the bad guy. I was the one being unreasonable. I was the one not respecting his needs. I apologized. I promised to be more understanding. The physical distance grew too. The sleepovers became less frequent. He'd say he needed to get up early for a meeting and had to sleep at his own place. The whole thing felt like it was slipping through my fingers, and the harder I tried to hold on, the faster it slipped away. My friend told me to be patient. High-powered men are like that, she advised. His career is a priority. You just have to be his peace, the place he comes to relax. Don't add to his stress. I tried. I really did. I bit my tongue. I swallowed my disappointment. I replied to his once-a-day texts with cheerful emojis. I was playing the part of the cool, low-maintenance girlfriend, and it was eating me alive. I felt a constant humming anxiety in my chest. I was so afraid of doing something wrong and pushing him away for good. I was losing myself trying to be the person I thought he wanted, but I kept telling myself it was worth it. This was the guy, the one from the list. A little bit of turbulence was to be expected. This was what a real adult relationship was like. I had no idea how wrong I was. The end came out of nowhere, or maybe I had just been refusing to see the signs. It was a Saturday night. Julian had canceled our plans again. Another work emergency. I was scrolling through social media, bored and feeling sorry for myself. I was tapping through the stories of people I barely knew when I saw it. It was a video, posted by some girl I think I'd met once at a party. A loud, crowded apartment, music thumping. In the background, for only a second or two, I saw him. It was definitely Julian. Same shirt he'd worn on our last date. He wasn't staring at a laptop or on a conference call. His arm was wrapped tightly around the waist of another girl, a pretty brunette. He was leaning in, whispering something in her ear, and she was laughing, tilting her head back. They looked intimate, comfortable, like they'd been doing this for a long time. The air left my lungs. My phone felt heavy in my hand. I played the video again and again, 10 times, 20 times. I zoomed in. There was no mistaking it. That was him. The work emergency was a party. The last-minute brainstorming session was another woman. Every excuse, every canceled plan, every delayed text message suddenly clicked into place. It wasn't about his demanding job. It was never about his job. I felt a surge of white-hot anger, followed by a wave of cold, crushing humiliation. I had been such a fool. I had defended him, made excuses for him, twisted myself into knots to be the cool girlfriend, all while he was doing this. I took a screenshot of the video, zoomed in on him and the girl, and sent it to him. My only text was, "Looks like a tough brainstorming session." My hands were shaking. I stared at the screen, waiting. For what? An apology? An explanation? A lie? The little delivered receipt turned to read. The 3 little dots appeared, indicating he was typing. They appeared, then disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. I checked his profile picture. It was gone, replaced by the generic gray avatar. A message appeared below our chat history. You can no longer reply to this conversation. He had blocked me. No fight, no tearful confession, no screaming match, just a click. I was deleted. That was it. Months of my life, my emotional investment, my hopes, all erased with the press of a button. I didn't cry at first. I was in shock. I called my friend. She was furious on my behalf. He's a classic narcissist, she declared. He love-bombed you and then devalued you. This is what toxic masculinity looks like in its purest form. He's human garbage, she said. Men are trash, all of them. Her anger felt good. It was validating. It was easier to be angry at all men than to feel the specific personal shame of being played so easily. We spent the next week talking about how awful Julian was, how all the good men were just better at hiding it, how the whole system was rigged against women. It was our familiar script, but this time it felt different. It felt less like a theoretical discussion and more like a diagnosis of a terminal illness. After the anger faded, the sadness set in, a deep, heavy exhaustion. I got back on the apps, mostly out of habit. A desperate attempt to prove to myself that Julian wasn't the only option. But my heart wasn't in it. Every profile seemed like a parody. The guy with the finance job, probably another Julian, just waiting to ghost me. The guy who said he was a feminist in his bio, probably just knew it was a good line. Every man was a potential threat. Every profile a collection of potential lies. The dates I forced myself to go on were disastrous. I was cynical and detached. I was projecting Julian's sins onto every man who sat across from me. One guy could tell. He looked at me halfway through our coffee and said, "You seem really angry. Are you okay?" I almost burst into tears right there. I made an excuse and left. The next few months were a blur of work, sleep, and commiserating with my friend. We became an echo chamber of bitterness. Every conversation revolved around the fundamental flaws of men. We convinced ourselves that being single was a political statement. We didn't need men. We were fine on our own. But on quiet nights, alone in my apartment, I knew it was a lie. I was profoundly lonely. I just didn't see a way out. The dating pool seemed like a contaminated reservoir, and I was tired of getting sick. It was sometime in the fall, maybe October. The leaves were changing. I ran into the guy who'd hosted that barbecue from the summer. We were in line at the same grocery store. We made small talk, the weather, work, the usual. "Hey," he said, as if just remembering something. "You met my friend Joshua at that party, right? The electrician?" The name barely registered at first. Then the image popped into my head. The guy calmly fixing the grill. The short, polite conversation by the cooler. "Oh, yeah," I said. "I remember him. How's he doing?" "He's doing great," the guy said, a big smile on his face. "His business is really taking off. He had to hire 2 more guys just to keep up with the work." He shifted his grocery basket. He bought a boat. A small fishing boat, nothing crazy. Takes it out on the lake almost every weekend now. Says it's the most peaceful he's felt in years. Then he said the thing that changed everything. He told me the other day he's completely given up on dating. Said it was like a rigged carnival game and he was tired of wasting his money and his time trying to win a prize that was probably broken anyway. He seems genuinely happy, you know? Just content. I stood there, holding a carton of milk, and felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Content. Joshua wasn't miserable because he was single. He wasn't desperately swiping on apps, trying to find someone. He had just opted out. He'd looked at the circus of dating, as I'd come to think of it, and just walked away. He was building his business. He was enjoying his hobbies. He was creating his own happiness on his own terms. He didn't need a woman's approval or validation to feel complete. And in that moment, a thought hit me with the force of a physical blow. Julian, the perfect man from the list, was the one playing the game. He was an expert at it. He knew exactly what to say and do to win, only to discard the prize as soon as he got it. Joshua, the simple electrician, was the one who was too smart to play a rigged game in the first place. My entire worldview tilted on its axis. For years, my friend and I had been complaining that there were no good men left. It had never, ever occurred to me that the good men might not be gone, but had simply gone somewhere else. That they'd gotten tired of being judged on their height and their job title, tired of being tested and viewed with suspicion, tired of walking on eggshells, afraid of saying the wrong thing about toxic masculinity. They hadn't been rejected by us. They had rejected the entire process. My list, my stupid, arrogant list. It wasn't a tool for finding a good partner. It was a filter designed to screen out guys like Joshua and let in guys like Julian. I hadn't been searching for a good man. I'd been searching for a man who looked good on paper, and I'd gotten exactly what I asked for. I got home and felt a desperate, panicked urgency. I had been so wrong, so unbelievably, fundamentally wrong. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number for the guy from the grocery store. My hands were trembling as I typed out the text. Hey, super random question, but would you happen to have Joshua's number? The guy from the BBQ. I'd like to ask him something. He sent it over a few minutes later, no questions asked. I stared at the number on my screen for a long time. An hour? Maybe more? What was I even going to say? Sorry, I wrote you off because of your job, but I've since been emotionally destroyed by the type of man I thought I wanted, and I now see the error of my ways? I decided to keep it simple. Hope for the best. I typed, Hi Joshua, this is Alice. We met at that barbecue over the summer. I know this is coming out of the blue, but I was wondering if you might be interested in getting coffee sometime. I hit send before I could lose my nerve, and then I waited. I paced my apartment. I checked my phone every 30 seconds. My heart was pounding. I was creating a whole new fantasy in my head. He'd say yes. We'd go out. I'd be different this time. I'd appreciate him for who he was. A stable, competent, kind man. We'd laugh about how I was an idiot before. It would be a great story to tell our kids one day. An hour later, my phone buzzed. It was him. My hands shook as I unlocked the screen. His reply was only 2 sentences. Hey Alice, thanks for the offer, but I'm going to pass. I'm not really dating right now. Wish you the best. That was it. No anger, no, oh, so now you're interested? No gloating. It wasn't rejection, not really. It was a statement of fact, a closing of a door that I never even knew was open. He wasn't playing the game. He wasn't on the field. He wasn't even in the stadium. He'd gone home. And I was standing there, in the middle of the empty circus tent, finally understanding that the real prize wasn't winning the game. It was being smart enough to never buy a ticket in the first place. I had no one to blame but myself